This is the 3D VIEW-MASTER cartoon favorites, Mr. Magoo. VIEW-MASTER Reel 1. Trees a crowd. One day, Mr. Magoo, you don't know Mr. Magoo? Introductions are in order. Quincy Magoo is an old-fashioned gentleman, retired, comfortably situated and healthy, except for a case of bad eyesight. His self-confidence more than makes up for this problem, however. For instance, one day Mr. Magoo went for a walk in the North Woods. The weather was beautiful and he was enjoying himself. Picture 1. In the fabulously wealthy home of his cousin, Tycoon Magoo, there was a problem. He was furious. Worcestershire, Tycoon roared at his butler. That idiot cousin of mine is loose in my valuable timber. He'll ruin it. Get rid of him, understand? The butler smiled. Yes, sir, at once, sir, he purred and slithered off. Meanwhile, Quincy Magoo peered at a small figure standing near a large tree. By George, he smiled, a tenderfoot scout out cutting firewood. You've been working like a beaver, lad, which wasn't surprising since the small figure was a beaver. Let Scoutmaster Magoo give you a hand. Picture 2. Picking up the little fellow, Magoo headed for the nearest tree. Evil Worcestershire winced at the sound of falling timber. Picture 3. Tycoon Magoo will be furious, the butler moaned. But this will take care of that bungler. He pulled the trigger of a strangely shaped machine gun. A hail of rubber-tipped darts zipped past the startled Mr. Magoo's nose. Bees, he cried. Take cover, men. Picture 4. But the sharp-eyed little beaver was alert. Quickly he ran up behind Worcestershire, pulled back his paddle-like tail, and wham! The butler flew off down the hill. Other beavers, attracted by the noise, hurried up. Ah, the rest of the troop, smiled Mr. Magoo. Just in time for lunch. I'll teach you how to prepare frog legs a la Magoo. Come along. Down but not out, Worcestershire pulled a large steel trap from his bag and stretched it open in the middle of the path. I'll set a trap to catch a sap, he chortled. When he steps on it, Geronimo. Geronimo? The approaching Mr. Magoo heard the name. Indians, men. We'll run 'em off. Charge. Picture 5. Grabbing a beaver under his arm, he rushed pell-mell down the trail and right into the unsuspecting Worcestershire. The butler jumped. Picture 6. The trap sprang shut, throwing Worcestershire high into the air. He tumbled down into the surrounding trees. Picture 7. Later that evening, a group of happy beavers sat round a blazing campfire. Mr. Magoo beamed over them. A great bunch of lads. But now it's time for a good old camp song. All together, follow me. And the notes of that old favorite, You Anita, floated upward past the place where the bruised and battered butler dangled from a limb. He was very unhappy. VIEW-MASTER Reel 2. Magoo's Bear. Several weeks later, Mr. Magoo decided to take a ride in his elderly automobile. It was a beautiful day for a drive, but Mr. Magoo wasn't happy with the other drivers. Blasted road hogs, he muttered as he drove the wrong way up a one-way street. Picture 1. Suddenly an emergency announcement blared from his car radio. All citizens, be on the lookout. A ferocious bear has escaped from the city zoo. Egad, said Mr. Magoo. It's not safe out. I'll hurry home at once. As he turned to go, however, his eye dimly detected a large, shaggy shape rummaging in a nearby garbage can. "What's this?" cried our hero. "Why, it's a college boy in a raccoon coat." "Climb in, son. You must be my guest until they've caught that pesky beast." Picture 2. With the guest in the back seat, they were off to Mr. Magoo's old Victorian house. "Here, let me take that coat," said Mr. Magoo, once they were safe inside. "We'll throw it in the closet." Picture 3. Before the startled animal could move, he found himself being dragged across the floor and stuffed unceremoniously into, not the closet, but the fireplace. Picture 1. 4. "Eeyo!" the bear howled, his fur ablaze. He leaped out of the fireplace and, Picture 5, plunged his smoldering tail into the goldfish bowl. The angry fish opened his mouth, clamped down, and "Zoe!" The poor bear leaped up again. Frantically he ran to the door, only to find it firmly locked. "It's a good thing I remembered to lock the door with that furiously animal outside," cried the genial Mr. Magoo. Picture 6. "But come, my lad, let us while away the time with a round of golf." 4. Swinging his club, Mr. Magoo smacked it soundly against the bear's round nose. Howling in despair, the poor animal hurled himself through the window with a splintering of glass and fled across the lawn. Picture 7. A short time later, the startled zookeeper was confronted by a battered, singed, bleeding hunk of shaggy fur. "How about that?" the keeper mused as he opened the cage door. "A chicken bear." VIEW-MASTER Reel 3. Top Bro Magoo. $2 billion, gloated a wealthy tycoon Magoo. "A $2 billion landscape job, and worth every penny of it. My estate now contains the rarest, most valuable plants in the world. I'll charge admission to see it. He he he." Picture 1. His phone rang. It was Worcestershire, his butler. "Your cousin Quincy is in your yard, sir, with his golf clubs. He thinks he's on the golf course." "Thinks he's where?" bellowed the miser. "He'll ruin everything. Get him out of there." Suddenly, crash, tinkle, shattering glass. A golf ball sailed through the window, struck the receiver, and bounced against Tycoon's forehead. Picture 2. Outside, Quincy Magoo was hacking and hewing his way through a thicket of his cousin's favorite, most expensive plants. "This course is in dreadful shape," he muttered. "Nothing but weeds for..." Picture 3. In his laboratory, Worcestershire chuckled over his bubbling chemicals. "I'll fill this ball full of TNT and place it where that bumbling idiot will find it. One tap from his golf club and our problem will be over." Picture 4. He sneaked across the grounds until he heard the sounds of splintering shrubbery. "Here he comes," he smirked. "I'll crawl under this bush and place the ball at his feet." Unfortunately for the butler, however, the ball gave a loud hiss just as he set it down. Picture 5. "Aha, a snake in the grass," shouted Mr. Magoo. "Take that, and that, and that!" He pounded vigorously at something writhing beneath the bush. The something just happened to be Worcester's hand. Picture 6. "Curses!" snarled the butler, clutching his injured fingers. "I'd better get out of here." He started to run away. But Mr. Magoo wasn't happy either. "This is the worst course I've played," he said. "Lousy green snakes in the grass. There are other things in life besides golf. In fact, I'm giving up the game right now." He picked up the ball at his feet and threw it over his shoulder. Picture 7. There was a tremendous explosion. Dust and leaves rained down. When it cleared, Worcestershire was sitting forlornly in the midst of the devastation, watching the small figure of Mr. Magoo totter jauntily away. "Did you ever have one of those days," he asked plaintively, "when everything goes wrong? Well, did you?"